Jeremiah 28, verses 1 through 9. That same year, early in the rule of Judah's king Zedekiah, in the 5th month of his 4th year, the prophet Hananiah, Azur's son from Gibeon, spoke to me in the Lord's temple before the priests and all the people. He said, "The Lord of heavenly forces, the God of Israel, proclaims, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. In 2 years I will restore to this place all of the temple equipment that Babylon's king Nebuchadnezzar carted off to Babylon. I will also restore to this place Judah's king Jeconiah, Jehoiakim's son, along with all the exiles from Judah who were deported to Babylon. For I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon, declares the Lord." Then the prophet Jeremiah responded to Hananiah in the presence of the priest and all the people who were standing in the Lord's temple. The prophet Jeremiah said, "Indeed, may the Lord do just as you have said. May the Lord fulfill the words that you have prophesied and bring back from Babylon the equipment of the Lord's temple and all the exiles to this place. However, listen closely to what I have to say to you and all the people. The prophets who came before you and me long ago prophesied war, disaster, and disease against many lands and great kingdoms. So the prophet who prophesies peace is recognized as one who is actually sent by the Lord only when that prophet's message is fulfilled."
I don't enjoy horror movies. I don't. I wish I did. I wish I liked horror movies because other people seem to really like horror movies, but I don't. I just don't. Sort of like spicy food. I don't understand why you would put yourself through pain on purpose. And so horror movies and spicy food sort of are in the same category for me, I think. They're not very pleasant experiences, and I don't really understand why you would want to go through them if you didn't have to. But one of the big things that's sort of a big trope of horror movies is that the heroine always makes the wrong decision. Like they always start off with a group, right? And the group has to debate. They are in this whatever situation it is. There's the guy who's chasing them, or the rampant disease that's coming, or the zombies that are going to attack, or whatever it is. And they have the group and they're supposed to make decisions. And in that group, there are always two sides, two voices competing about who's going to have the right answer. And it seems like every single time they choose the person who makes the dumbest, has the wrong answer. It seems right at the time, but it's the wrong answer. And so they always go upstairs instead of running out of the house, or they run right into the zombies instead of running away, or they draw attention to themselves, or whatever. They always seem to make the wrong choice or go in the wrong directions. And I think a lot of times it's because they're in a hurry. And they misread all of the cues, right? They misread the sounds that they hear. They think the heavy footsteps are coming from over there when they're really coming from over there, or they misread the intentions of the evildoer in the story, or they think that the easy way of just going and attacking them is going to be the way out. It seems like they always make things harder for themselves because they listen to the wrong person in the group, the one who is giving the wrong decision, the one who's sort of the false prophet of the movie. It's sort of a similar situation in today's Bible story. Now, it's the people of Israel are in a horror story. God tells them way back when in Deuteronomy that the things that they want, the things that they're asking for, are going to end up being a curse for them. If you read the book of Judges, the very last ending of the book of Judges, God says to the people, "You are asking for a king, but that you're going to rue the day when you asked for a king." And so it is sometime later that Jeremiah is faced with a group of people who have listened to the wrong king. And King Zadok is making some terrible decisions. And they're receiving the curse that God had warned them about hundreds of years before. And so they're in the middle of a war. And it seems like an endless war that's cost lives. And it doesn't really seem like they understand why. And they're in the middle of a famine because they didn't plan properly for the dry season. And so they're hungry. And a lot of people are out of work and they're at war. And then disease strikes. And so they're an angry, sad people. Because all of the promises that they had been expecting weren't coming true. They'd listened to the wrong prophet. In chapter 28 of Jeremiah, we hear the middle of an argument. You see, there are two prophets at work. There's Jeremiah, who it turns out is the true prophet, but the people don't know that yet. And then there's the second prophet, Hananiah, who claims he is the true prophet. And so Jeremiah, in chapter 28, had put on a yoke, an oxen yoke, as a symbol of the curse, to show the people what was going to happen, that they were going to have to carry burdens. They were going to have to go through something terrible. But that symbolized that God's presence would also be with them. And Hananiah, in sort of a childish move, takes the yoke off of Jeremiah's neck and breaks it and says, God would never do that. God would never let that curse come, even though the evidence of that curse was all around them. Hananiah was promising an easy answer. And Hananiah was saying that the war could be over soon. The disease and the pestilence and the famine, all of that was going to be over soon. They didn't need to worry. There was an easy solution to this. They didn't need to listen to the naysayers and the doom prophets and the people like Jeremiah who were arguing that this was just the beginning of a long process. That the people of Israel were in for a long captivity and exile. And so Jeremiah says to them that it's hard to tell between a false prophet and a true prophet, but that in the end, the false prophet and the true prophet will be borne out. Basically, time will tell. And so you can choose, Jeremiah says, who you will listen to. You can choose Hananiah, who's giving you the short route and the easy route and saying, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Or you can listen to me, who's saying this is going to be a long, hard haul. And you can see why the people of Israel chose Hananiah. We all want to think that whatever we're experiencing is going to be over soon. We all want to think that whatever news we've received or whatever hardship that we're going through, that it's a temporary thing. We all want that. And often it is a temporary thing and nothing lasts forever, but sometimes those temporary things are gateways to major changes. For example, have you ever gone to the doctor and the doctor says, congratulations, you're much healthier than you were last year. And you feel really good about it and you're very excited about it and you think, oh, okay, well, I can go back to living the way I was. And then the doctor says, okay, but you just need to lose another 20 pounds. Right? It's good. They're both good. It's a good decision. But you still have to do the hard work that comes along with it. So you took this temporary change of life and you made successes and you made strides in it. And then you go to the doctor and the doctor reminds you that that's not a temporary thing after all. That you're going to have to keep doing these hard things that you don't really like. The eating of the vegetables and the going to the gym, right? Or you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you're doing a good job. You have worked on your budget and you're meeting your financial goals. Now here's the next step. Here's the next thing you need to change and sacrifice. And so what seems like a temporary sacrifice or change turns out to be much longer than that. So it's easy to see why the people chose Hananiah, why the people liked what Hananiah was saying, the easy out, the simple solution. But Jeremiah reminds us that the more things change, the more they stay the same. That, yes, hardship is not forever. That hardships and difficulties and times of trial are not forever. This will not be forever. But it is the beginning of a new something. Now, we've heard the phrase "a new normal" bandied about a bunch lately, almost to the point where it seems, like it's doesn't process anymore. We've heard this saying that it's the new normal and we have to get rid of it. And I think a part of us wants to believe that, doesn't want to believe that a part of us wants to think that everything's going to go back to the way it was before. That, it's been a couple months and everything, we're done with that and it's over and we're going to be able to pop right back into the way things were before. But the other part of us knows that everything is going to be different. That maybe things start to look normal again. They get a sheen of normal back on them. But things have changed. Our relationships with people have changed. Our relationship with work colleagues has changed. The way we view the world has changed. And so it's easy to believe that everything's going to snap back into place the way it was before. But we all know, I think, deep down, that something's changed. Jeremiah has a reminder for us in those times when there's a new normal, when you realize that the transition, which you thought was temporary, is going to be a lot longer, that it was maybe just the beginning of something, and you're in a place that you don't like, that looks unfamiliar. You're in an exile or a transition of some sort. And Jeremiah reminds us that we can still choose to plant. You see, if you go on to the next chapter, chapter 29, Jeremiah tells the people that when they go into exile, they should plant, and they should grow gardens, and they should build homes, and they should have families. Because whatever it is that the new normal becomes, there is always a choice to have a future. We don't have a choice about the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We don't have a choice of whether we're in exile or not. We don't have a choice of whether we go through war or famine or disease or not. But we do have the opportunity in the midst of those things to go ahead and plant, to go ahead and love our families, and to be kind to our friends, and to support one another. Because God is a God who plants seeds. Whether it's for a season, and then those crops are cut down and something new pops up, or whether those seeds are planted forever, God is not an idle God. God is not a God who's going to sit around and wait for whatever it is, for the normal to return. God is a God who works in the midst of exile, who plants those seeds, who raises up families. God is a God who builds houses, even when it's in places we don't want to be. God doesn't wait for normal to return, or for situations to be perfect, or for us to be particularly happy about it. So God is planting. God is planting seeds everywhere. And God is cultivating those seeds and raising up corn and building houses and raising up families and bringing together friends and communities. And we just have to decide to plant a garden next to God's, to put our back into it and plant that seed and drive that tractor right next to God's. And so do we wait for normal to return, or do we plant a garden and see what we can bring?